Hey, what's going on, my friends? Del Denny here, and today we're going to talk about how do we overcome fear. Now, I don't know about you, but have you ever felt anxious about the next day because you've got an important meeting? Or have you ever felt fear that you're going to bomb it in a speech? Or have you ever felt fear that, I want to ask this person out on a date, but what if he rejects me or she rejects me or whatever it may be? Have you ever just felt fear in your life? Have you ever felt the anxiety that comes along with it? Well, today we're going to talk about how do we overcome fear, because this is one of the most important things that we can do as high performers is to learn how to overcome fear, because once we learn how to overcome fear, well, the sky is the limit. The problem is today is too many people live in fear and they don't live in their dreams. They don't live towards the life that they want to live because they're letting fear and anxiety and all these things hold them back. And so I want to share some principles and some techniques with you today that's going to help you to overcome that fear and really have that breakthrough that you're looking for. And so here's the very first idea when it comes to overcoming fear, and that is to actually identify your fears. Know exactly what it is that you're scared of. A lot of times that we can have this anxiety in our life, and we just have this feeling, and we know that we're anxious, and we know we're fearful, and we're dreading a certain thing to happen, but we don't take the time to get pen and paper out to actually list what exactly it is that we're fearful of. For example, we might have a presentation that we have to give tomorrow, and we may be anxious going into that. But what exactly is it that we're anxious about? And so when we put pen to paper and we list all the things that we're actually nervous about, we're anxious about, that we're fearful about, you're really going to see that that list is probably pretty small. It's not this huge list of things that we're fearful of. It might be one or two things. And so as we look at that list, it helps our anxiety to go down. It helps our fear to go down, to realize it's really not a whole lot that I have to be fearful of. All right, now this leads me to the second thought, and that is to ask the question, what is the worst thing that can happen? Okay, so my fear does come true, which, by the way, 99% of the time, fears don't come true. All right, we've heard this acronym before. Fear stands for false evidence appearing real. Yeah, it happens. Most of the time, fear doesn't even come. But here's the thing. What if it does happen? What's the worst thing that can happen if that thing does happen? All right, so let's say that I have that meeting tomorrow. And what's the worst thing that could happen in that meeting that I'm anxious and fearful of? Well, the worst thing that could happen is that I bomb it. I don't do well. I mess up my words. I mix up the slideshow. No one laughs at my jokes. Are these things that could happen? Yeah. Is that the worst thing that could happen? Okay, maybe I lose my job. Okay. Can you live with that? That's the follow-up question. Can you live with that? Do you want to be at an organization that's going to fire you over one presentation? Probably not, right? Can you live with that worst case scenario? And most of the time it's yes. And guess what? 99% of the time, that worst case scenario doesn't happen. So knowing that, you're going to be just fine. Now here's the third idea, and this is really the secret sauce to all this. The way that we overcome fear is one word, and that word is action. Action is what helps us to overcome fears. Now it's going to be tough at first to overcome your fear. But once you start establishing that pattern of overcoming fears, that's when the magic happens. Any high performer in life has developed that action attitude, and I'll give you an example. For me, something that I fear naturally is heights. I'm not a fan of heights. I don't enjoy them. I don't like being up high and looking out. But something that I knew of, if I want to overcome this thing, I got to take some massive action. And so what I did was I jumped out of an airplane. I went skydiving. I went 13,000 feet up in the air, jumped out of a perfectly good airplane, and I landed, and everything was just fine. So what did that teach me? Well, overcome your fear. It's not as bad as you think. And then when you have more fears that look like that, well, you've overcome others that look like that, so you'll be just fine moving forward. So understanding that action is one of the best things that you can do for fear, that will help you to overcome that fear. Now, here's the very last thought. So after you've identified your fears, you've recognized, what the worst thing that is that can happen, after you've taken massive action, now the very last thought of this is to learn. Okay, take a second to really learn. After everything is said and done, what did you learn from that experience? Did it go right? Did it go wrong? Did those fears actually come to fruition? Probably not, right? And so take the time to really take that mental note of what went right, what went wrong, how can you improve? And as you go throughout life and you continue to have more fears that come into your life, you're going to see, okay, here's another fear that's happening. Here's some more anxiety that's happening. What should I do? Well, I remember that time I had that presentation, and guess what? None of that bad stuff happened. It's probably going to be the same thing for this presentation. Everything's going to work out well. So as you learn those things, as you identify your fears, ask yourself, what's the worst thing that can happen, and can I live with that? After you take action, after you learn from it, that's how we overcome fear. So I hope this helps. This is Del Denny signing off. Remember, learn, lead, and live to your full potential.